and will be presenting the RoboCanada Inc. case. Looking at the map, we can see the supplier areas circled in black, while the existing customers of RoboCanada Inc. are circled in green. The prospective locations for a new hub facility are circled in red. An analysis of the selected countries using Zurich's risk room show that the best options with the least risk are Malaysia, Thailand, and China, although Russia is very close with China. However, after putting these locations in the context of supply chains and logistics, we found that India is attractive and deserves further investigation because of its strategic location. Beginning with an analysis of Malaysia that has the least risk of all the selected countries, we can see that geographically it is at a disadvantage because of the need to double back products. Referring to the graph based on information gathered from the risk room, we can see that Malaysia is by far the least risky location and has consistently been decreasing in risk. This pyramid model demonstrates the risk of Malaysia with the current home countries of Canada and the UK. Based on the risk room data, the top of the pyramid represents the risks that are lower than the home countries, such as inflation and government regulation. The dark blue section shows the proportion of risks that are in the same risk quartile as the home countries. The yellowish section shows that political violence and expropriation are higher than the home country, and the orange section represents risks significantly higher than the home country by one quartile or more. India, on the other hand, is strategically located close to suppliers and is close to 2 of the 3 customers, as well as being on the way to the 3rd, South Korea. Additionally, it can support further expansion into Asia. However, with the information gathered from the Zurich risk room, we can see that it is not the best option in regard to risk. There has been an increase in business risk in regard to trade barriers and inflation starting from 2007. However, there has been a stable political risk that jumped in 2011 because of bombings in Mumbai that have since decreased to previous levels. Looking at the risk comparison with the UK and Canada, we can see that there are no values that have lower risk than the home countries. Additionally, there is higher risk and significantly higher risk in most risk categories.
Our third country is China, which is far from the current factories in Europe and Africa, but is relatively close to existing customers, especially South Korea. This can reduce service and customer response time significantly. From the risk room, we notice that China's risks are balanced at 0.4. We can see that physical risk rose in 2008 due to the Sichuan earthquake, which has increased the seismic disaster risk drastically. Comparing to home countries, the potential risks associated with macroeconomic and financial stability in China are either lower or similar levels. This is because China has had the fastest growing economy for the last few decades. However, due to its different political system, risks related to regulations and governance are higher in China. By being specific about which location we use, mitigation of some of the largest risks become possible. Looking at the map of China, we notice that the coast area is least prone to earthquakes and is far more developed than the rest of the country. Building a factory there would reduce physical risks and government regulations because of the special economic zones and the highly rated air and sea transportation infrastructures. The data for Hong Kong SAR provides a good reference point for modifying some risks in the risk room. Doing so, we notice that China moves from the center of the risk graph to join countries like Thailand in the better quarter of the graph.
As for India, the biggest risks we identified were infrastructure related, especially electricity, which is critical for operation, and the IT infrastructure, which is key for management. As we can see on the left map, both these risks can be mitigated by placing the hub around Mumbai or Chennai. But in order to also reduce the risk of flooding, going to the west coast, for example Mumbai, is an even better solution. This also provides us an easy access to the biggest port and airport of the country. Adjusting the risk level to reflect this change significantly decreased the physical risk ranking of India, but not so much in the business area. Finally, Malaysia already enjoys a very positive ranking, and as a company, there are no possible actions we can take that we can confidently say will lower the risk even further. The risk room gives us a very good view of the risk of each country, but before making any decision, one has to take into consideration extra risks regarding relationships between all countries involved and a range of other factors. Differential cost, for example, is an important factor to consider, and a big part of it is related to labor cost, especially with a company like RoboCanada, which already has 60,000 employees. All 3 countries are much cheaper than UK and Canada, with minimum wages ranging from $100 to $300 per month. However, this advantage can be short-lived. China, for example, has seen its minimum wage doubled between 2006 and 2011.
An extra risk to consider is the political and trade relationships between all concerned countries. Taking only the current markets into account, we see that Malaysia has the advantage of already having approved FTA with Pakistan and South Korea, as well as a pending FTA with Kazakhstan. Interestingly, proximity to Pakistan was one of the reasons we chose India, but looking more thoroughly, we can see that no trade can happen between the two countries because of political struggles. However, India is still the closest of all options by passing through Dubai. Cultural differences always need to be considered when expanding, and further will increase the success of the channel. For example, the cultural risk for a Canadian company entering China will be different than a Japanese company entering China. In addition, countries sharing a similar official language have healthier communication channels. Not only geographical proximity, but also safety and convenience of the transportation routes have to be evaluated. We can see here the risky zones to consider in our sea routes. Setting up in India would reduce the risk both for component shipments and customer delivery since routes to the Pacific pass by high-risk zones. That concludes our presentation. Thank you for your attention.